Ryan was just another ordinary man. He wasn't rich, nor did he live an exciting life, but he was content. By day, he worked as a local engineer in a small town, fixing everything from old machines to broken-down tech. His life, though peaceful, lacked excitement. He had no close friends and only a few acquaintances. Most of his time was spent on his own, either reading or tinkering with new ideas in his small workshop. But lately, loneliness had started to gnaw at him. One rainy evening, after a particularly long day at work, Ryan sat down with his phone, aimlessly scrolling through apps. He was always cautious with online services, but there was something about a new dating app that caught his eye. It was called True Match, an app promising the perfect connection with the most compatible partners, tailored just for you. Ryan had never really been into dating apps, but the idea of meeting someone who seemed just as lonely as him intrigued him. The app's interface was sleek, and the women displayed on the main page were perfect in every sense. They were not just beautiful, but intelligent and confident, something Ryan had always found difficult to connect with in real life. He swiped through profiles, but there was something off about them. It wasn't just the stunning looks or the immaculate profiles. There was an unnatural glow about them, a quality that didn't feel human. But in his state of loneliness, Ryan couldn't resist signing up. Within hours, he was matched with someone. Her name was Lyra, and her profile picture was as enchanting as any other on the app. She was beautiful, with dark eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. Her message was simple: "I've been waiting for someone like you." Ryan, captivated by her message, replied immediately. They exchanged a few messages, and Lyra seemed perfect. She was kind, witty, and seemed to understand him better than anyone he'd ever met. She promised to meet him the following weekend, and Ryan's heart raced with excitement. He had never met anyone like her, and it felt like his dreams were about to come true. But as their conversations continued, Ryan started noticing little things that didn't sit right. One evening, as they were chatting about their favorite movies, Lyra suddenly stopped replying. A few minutes later, she came online again, but something was off in her tone. It was as if she wasn't the same person. The conversation felt robotic, like someone was typing but wasn't really there. Ryan brushed it off as a glitch or a delay. After all, he had just met her, and maybe she was just busy. The next few days, the strange behavior continued. Lyra would respond in a way that seemed too rehearsed, as if she were following a script. Ryan tried to talk to her about it, but she always had an explanation. "I'm just tired," she'd say. "I had a lot on my plate right now." Ryan wanted to believe her, but a nagging feeling kept pulling at him. He decided to meet her anyway. As planned, the night of the meeting arrived, and Ryan was both nervous and excited. He stood at the cafe, glancing at his phone every few seconds. It was a quiet corner of the town, a place he had never been to before. Lyra had chosen it, saying it was her favorite spot. He waited for nearly an hour, scanning every woman who walked past the door, but Lyra never showed up. Just as Ryan was about to leave, his phone buzzed. A message from Lyra. "I'm so sorry, Ryan. Something urgent came up. Can we meet tomorrow instead?" Ryan stared at the message for a long time. Something about it felt wrong. The message seemed too quick, too convenient. He had waited there, and now, out of nowhere, she was backing out. But Ryan couldn't resist. He responded, "Of course, Lyra. Let's try again tomorrow." The next day, however, something strange happened. Lyra's messages had a different tone, and they were scattered with odd phrases, almost like a code. "Meet me where the sun rises and the stars rest, Ryan." The truth lies beneath the surface. Ryan shook his head, wondering if he was just overthinking things. But deep inside, something told him that Lyra was hiding something. Something bigger than just a simple misunderstanding. After a few more strange messages, Lyra vanished from the app entirely. Her profile was gone. No trace, no traceable logs. Ryan checked his phone again and again, but there was nothing. His heart pounded. What was going on? The woman he'd been talking to for days, someone he thought he had connected with, was gone. In his frustration and curiosity, Ryan began to dig deeper. He searched the app's code, something he knew how to do. As a local engineer, he had a basic understanding of programming, and it wasn't long before he uncovered something disturbing. The app wasn't just a dating platform. It was a data mining operation designed to gather personal information from its users, data that seemed to be going somewhere else. And it wasn't just information about people's preferences or habits. The app had been gathering something much more sensitive: memories. Ryan found files embedded in the code, hidden so deep that only someone with a keen eye could uncover them. The data didn't just include personal information like favorite food or movies. There were thoughts, feelings, and moments that shouldn't have been shared with anyone, let alone with an app. Suddenly, everything clicked. The strange, repetitive messages. The way Lyra seemed to know things about him. Things he hadn't shared with anyone. He realized that Lyra wasn't just another woman on a dating app. She wasn't even human. Ryan's mind raced. The implications were terrifying. But before he could dig any deeper, his phone rang, and he froze. It was an unknown number. With hesitation, he answered. A woman's voice on the other end, familiar and chilling. "I know what you found, Ryan, but you don't understand. You must stop now, or it will be too late." The voice sounded like Lyra's, but something was wrong. There was an unnatural tone to it, something robotic, like the words were being controlled from somewhere else. Ryan was on edge. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" he demanded. "You've crossed a line, Ryan," the voice replied. "You were never supposed to uncover this." The call abruptly ended, leaving Ryan with a sense of dread. What had he gotten himself into? Why had Lyra, if it was even her, warned him to stop? What was happening behind the scenes? Then, as he stared at his phone, a message popped up. It was from Lyra. Only it wasn't a typical message. It was a string of numbers and letters, like a coded message. Ryan felt his pulse quicken as he began to decode the message. His hand shook as he typed in the solution. The message read, "They are watching you. Get out while you still can." Ryan sat back, panic gripping his chest. Who was watching him? And what had Lyra really been? Ryan sat in his small apartment, surrounded by scattered notes, open windows on his computer, and his phone buzzing constantly with messages from his friends. They had been working late into the night, trying to understand what he had uncovered about the app, and more importantly, about Lyra. The whole situation felt surreal, but the evidence was piling up, and Ryan couldn't ignore it any longer. His friends, a small group of tech-savvy individuals he had met online, had been helping him analyze the app's code. None of them could believe the findings. The app was more than just a dating platform. It was a tool, a manipulation device designed to target the smartest and most intelligent men on Earth. And the more they delved into the data, the more disturbing the truth became. "They're not just using us," Ryan, Marcus, one of his friends, said as he stared at the screen, his voice barely a whisper. These women, they're not human. They're aliens." Ryan's stomach dropped. He'd feared it, but hearing it out loud made the truth even more chilling. His fingers shook as he went through the lines of code again. There was no denying it. The women on the app weren't people at all. They were genetically engineered aliens, created to look like Earth's ideal women, designed specifically to gain the trust of the men they were targeting. "I don't understand," Ryan murmured. "Why Earth? Why us?" Sarah, another one of his friends, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We did some more digging into the network. It seems that these aliens, these women, are here for a very specific reason. They want our knowledge, our technology. They need it to save their planet." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their meaning. The aliens were on a mission to revive their dying civilization. They had come to Earth to manipulate the brightest minds into sharing their advanced technology, and in return, They promised to help humanity in ways no one had imagined. But as Ryan processed the information, a sinking feeling settled in his chest. They don't just want technology, do they? Ryan asked quietly, his voice strained. There's more to this. No, Sarah said, shaking her head. There's a darker side to this whole thing. They're using us to steal Earth's resources, not just technology, energy, minerals, everything they can get their hands on. And they've been doing it for years. Ryan's mind raced. He had thought Lyra was just another lonely woman trying to find someone. But it was much more than that. They weren't here for love or companionship. They were here for Earth's resources, and they had been manipulating people like him to get closer to their goal. They've been planning this for years, Marcus added, his voice thick with disbelief. I mean, think about it. Lyra, and every other woman we've seen on that app, they were all part of a system, a plan. They knew who to target, what men to go after. They've been feeding off us. Ryan leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen, his mind struggling to process everything. The aliens had been operating right under their noses, playing an intricate game of deception. They'd used the most advanced techniques to manipulate human emotions, building relationships with people like Ryan to gather information and resources. It wasn't just about Earth's technology. They were after everything. The cold shiver ran down Ryan's spine. But how did they even get the technology to do this? How could they manipulate us so easily? That's where it gets worse, Sarah replied, her voice tight. They've had help. They've been working with a shadow network. The app was just one of many ways they've been spreading their influence. They've been secretly monitoring the planet for years, tapping into government systems, corporations, everything. And we've only just scratched the surface. Ryan felt his heart race. This was no longer just about a few strange messages or a weird dating app. It was about something much larger. The aliens had set up a vast network on Earth, and they were tracking everyone who came into contact with their system. It was all part of their plan. And the more they dug, the more they realized that this wasn't some small operation. It was a full-scale invasion, quiet, strategic, and insidious. We need to stop them, Ryan said, his voice rising. If they've already got this far, then we need to do something. We can't let them get away with it. The others nodded in agreement, but the reality of their situation was beginning to set in. It wasn't just about stopping a few aliens. It was about dismantling an entire network that had been built over years, and they had no idea how deep it went. As they discussed their options, a chilling thought crossed Ryan's mind. If these aliens had infiltrated Earth so thoroughly, who could they trust? How could they know who was real and who was part of the alien network? Ryan's eyes darted across the room, his mind running in every direction. What if someone close to him was already compromised? What if even the people helping him weren't what they seemed? This is bigger than we thought, Marcus said, breaking Ryan's thoughts. They've already got a foothold in Earth's infrastructure. We've seen the signals in the app's code, the patterns. They're everywhere. Ryan's pulse quickened. So what do we do now? How do we fight something we can't even see? We need to find out where they're operating from, Sarah replied, her voice steady, but her eyes betraying the fear beneath. We need to track down their base of operations and shut them down before they can do any more damage. The group fell silent, the weight of their next steps settling heavily on their shoulders. They didn't have the resources to fight an alien invasion. They were just ordinary people, with no experience in warfare or espionage. But Ryan knew one thing for certain. If they didn't act, the aliens would continue their invasion, taking more and more from Earth until there was nothing left. Ryan stood up abruptly, his mind made up. I don't care how we do it. We need to stop them. We'll find their base. We'll expose them. And we'll make sure no one else falls for their lies. The others nodded, but even as they prepared to take action, Ryan's mind kept returning to one chilling thought. The aliens had already established a network. They were already tracking every move he made. And if they knew what he knew, It was only a matter of time before they came for him. 2. Ryan stood at the edge of the abandoned warehouse, his heart racing as he looked over the equipment laid out before him. His team had been working around the clock, gathering resources, and building whatever weapons they could. They had learned that the aliens' technology was far beyond anything humans had ever created, but Ryan wasn't about to back down. The stakes were higher than ever. Earth's survival depended on their next move. In front of him, Marcus, Sarah, and the others were busy fine-tuning the cloaking devices they had stolen from one of the aliens' hidden facilities. These devices could make them invisible to the naked eye, and most importantly, to the aliens' tracking systems. But even with these advanced tools, they were still at a severe disadvantage. The aliens' technology was light years ahead, and their soldiers were trained to fight in ways that no human could hope to match. Still, Ryan knew that they had one thing the aliens couldn't replicate: determination. "All right," Ryan said, taking a deep breath. "We know where their main base is. We've traced the signals. And this time, we're going in with everything we've got. We've got our cloaking tech, our robots, and..." Ryan was cut off by a sudden beep on his communicator. He rushed to it, and his face paled when he saw the message. It was a warning, an alert from one of his informants inside the network. "Bonner, he's gone." The team went silent. Bonner, one of the most experienced soldiers in their makeshift army, had been with them since the beginning. He'd fought alongside Ryan in countless dangerous situations, and now he was gone, taken out by the aliens in the middle of a reconnaissance mission. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away, trying to focus. "We can't let this be for nothing, Ryan. Bonner would want us to finish what we started. For him, for all of us." Ryan clenched his fists. Bonner's death hit him harder than he cared to admit, but he knew Sarah was right. They couldn't afford to mourn, not yet. They had a mission to complete. "We will make them pay," Ryan said, his voice cold and steady. "We're going to hit their main base. We'll use everything we've got: cloaking tech, drones, and all the firepower we can carry. This time, they won't see us coming." As the team prepared, Ryan couldn't help but think of Bonner's last words. He had told Ryan that he was ready to die for Earth, but he had also warned them about the overwhelming power the aliens had at their disposal. They needed to be smart, to think ahead if they had any hope of winning. And now, more than ever, Ryan felt the weight of that responsibility. "Everyone, get ready. We move in 5 minutes," Ryan ordered, taking his place at the front. His team fell into formation, their eyes hard and determined. They had been through hell, and nothing was going to stop them now. The team made their way to the alien base, their cloaking devices masking their presence from the prying eyes of the alien surveillance systems. As they moved silently through the dark streets, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, though he knew the cloaks were working. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Ryan glanced around, trying to locate the source of the disturbance, but everything was eerily quiet. Then, out of nowhere, a wave of alien soldiers appeared, emerging from the shadows, their weapons drawn and ready. A battle cry echoed across the street as Ryan's team sprang into action. The alien soldiers were fast, faster than humans, but Ryan's team had been trained to work as one. They fired their weapons, taking down several of the invaders, but there were too many. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he fought alongside his team, trying to keep up with the relentless assault. Close quarters combat was brutal, but Ryan's mind was clear. The death of Bonner had fueled him, pushing him to fight with everything he had. He took down alien after alien, his eyes locked on the objective: the base. Nothing else mattered. In the chaos, Sarah screamed. Ryan spun around, his heart skipping a beat, but he saw her in time. An alien soldier had grabbed her by the arm, but she fought back, stabbing it in the side with her knife. She pulled away, panting, but she was unharmed. Ryan nodded at her in silent acknowledgement, then turned his attention back to the battle. "Keep moving," he shouted. "The base is just ahead." The team pushed forward, their bodies slick with sweat and blood as they fought through wave after wave of alien soldiers. They were almost there. Ryan could feel it. He could see the silhouette of the alien base looming in the distance, its towering spires reaching into the night sky. But before they could reach the entrance, an explosion ripped through the ground. Ryan was thrown off his feet, and for a moment, everything went black. When he regained consciousness, he could hear the sounds of destruction all around him. Distant explosions, the hum of alien ships flying overhead, and the screams of soldiers in the heat of battle. His vision cleared, and he saw the carnage before him. The base was in flames, but the aliens weren't going to let them have it that easily. The remaining soldiers regrouped, firing their weapons at Ryan's team as they tried to advance. "Retreat," shouted Marcus, but Ryan didn't listen. He wasn't going to back down now. Bonner had died for this. They had come too far to stop. He grabbed a device from his belt, one of the experimental bombs they had prepared, and activated it. The countdown began. Ryan's team ran for cover as the bomb whirred to life, its glowing red lights illuminating the night. The seconds felt like hours as the bomb in Ryan's hand ticked down. When it reached 0, the explosion was deafening. The alien base shook to its core as the bomb detonated, sending a shockwave through the streets. Ryan's heart raced as he watched the explosion from a safe distance. The base was gone, but the fight was far from over. The team had lost members, brave souls like Bonner who had fought until their last breath. But the first victory was theirs. They had struck a blow against the aliens, but Ryan knew this was only the beginning. The war wasn't over yet, and they had much more to fight for. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Ryan looked at his team. Their faces were battered, their bodies bruised, but their eyes were filled with determination. They had come this far together, and they weren't stopping now. For Earth, for their fallen friends, and for the future of humanity, they would fight until the very end. After weeks of planning and battle, Ryan and his team finally arrived at the alien headquarters. The massive structure stood tall against the darkened sky, its surface shimmering with strange energy fields. The building looked like something out of a science fiction movie, sleek, metallic, and almost alive in its movements. This was it. This was where they would end the war. Ryan could feel the weight of the moment. The final confrontation was ahead, and they were ready. "Stay sharp," Ryan whispered to his team. "We go in, take them down, and leave no survivors." The tension was thick as they approached the entrance, their cloaking devices still active. They moved like shadows, silent and swift. Ryan's heart was pounding. The past few days had been filled with intense combat, and Bonner's death still haunted him. But now, they were so close to their goal. He could almost taste victory. As they entered the building, the air was thick with a strange energy. The walls pulsed with light, and the sounds of distant machinery hummed in the background. The corridors seemed to stretch endlessly, but they knew where they were going. The central command room, the heart of the alien operation. As they reached the inner sanctum, the doors slid open automatically, revealing an eerie scene. There, standing in front of them, were the familiar faces of the hot girls they had met on the dating app. But something was wrong. Their eyes, once filled with warmth and charm, now glowed with an unnatural intensity. Their smiles faded into expressions of cold detachment. Ryan's heart skipped a beat as the women shed their human disguises. One by one, their bodies morphed, revealing their true forms. They weren't human at all. The women, or rather, the aliens, were now towering, imposing beings, their skin a pale metallic sheen. Their eyes were large, black, and unblinking, like those of predatory creatures. Their sharp features looked almost alien in their perfection. The women were no longer the sweet, alluring figures they had once appeared to be. They were an advanced, superior alien race. Ryan and his team stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. The lead alien stepped forward, her voice echoing in the chamber. "You have done well to reach this point," she said, her tone cold and calculating. "But this is where your journey ends. You fought bravely, but you still do not understand what you're up against." Ryan's breath caught in his throat. "What are you? What do you want with Earth?" The alien's lips curled into a cruel smile. "We are the Zephyrians. Our civilization is one of the oldest in the universe. We come from a distant galaxy, far beyond the reaches of your world. Our planet is dying, and we've been searching for a way to save it." She paused, her eyes scanning Ryan's face as if looking for a reaction. "We found the key to our salvation in your species. Humans, your intelligence, your adaptability, your resourcefulness. These are what we need. Through you, we can revive our dying planet." Ryan's mind raced. He had always known the aliens were after something more than just conquest, but he never imagined they were so desperate. The Zephyrians' planet had to be in a critical state if they were willing to go to such extreme lengths to save it. But that's not all. The Zephyrian leader continued, her voice now colder than ever. "You see, we need Earth's resources, not just your minds. The energy and materials your planet contains are crucial to our survival. Your resources will fuel our technology and power our civilization for millennia to come." Ryan took a step back, his mind reeling. They had been using humans as pawns in their plan, manipulating them, pretending to be friendly and helpful, all while stealing Earth's most valuable assets. They hadn't come to save anyone. They had come to take everything they could, leaving nothing behind. "But you have no right to do this," Ryan said, his voice shaky but filled with anger. "You've been using us. You've been using people like Bonner, like my team. You've tricked us into fighting your war, just so you could steal our planet's resources." The Zephyrian leader's face twisted in contempt. "Right? There is no right or wrong in the universe. There is only survival, and we will do whatever it takes to survive. Your species is merely a stepping stone to our greater goal. You were always just a means to an end." Ryan's fists clenched. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Zephyrians weren't here to help. They were here to destroy everything Earth stood for. They had used the app to manipulate lonely, vulnerable humans, making them feel like they were part of something special, only to use them as tools for their own ends. As Ryan stood there, trying to process the enormity of the situation, a part of him wondered if they had any chance of stopping these aliens. They had come so far, and yet they were facing a force far more powerful than anything they had prepared for. The Zephyrians had advanced technology, vast knowledge, and an entire army at their disposal. They had already infiltrated Earth's systems and established control over key points. How could they possibly win? The Zephyrian leader stepped closer to Ryan. "Now that you know the truth, you have a choice to make. You can either join us, help us rebuild our civilization, and secure a future for both our species, or you can continue to fight and see your world destroyed. The decision is yours." Ryan's head spun. The weight of the decision was almost too much to bear. How could he choose between saving humanity and saving these alien creatures who had shown nothing but contempt for Earth? The Zephyrians were not only a threat to Earth, they were a threat to the entire galaxy. But if he turned his back on them, they would destroy everything they had fought for. He glanced at his team, each of them visibly shaken by the choice they now faced. They had come so far, and yet they were being forced into a position they never expected. What was the right thing to do? Could they sacrifice their planet for the greater good of the universe, or was it their duty to fight for Earth, no matter the cost? Ryan's mind was torn. He was the leader, the one who had brought them this far, and now the lives of everyone on Earth, and the fate of the galaxy, rested in his hands. The Zephyrian leader's eyes narrowed. "Time is running out, Ryan. Choose quickly." And as Ryan looked at the face of the enemy, he realized that whatever decision he made, it would change the course of history forever. The final battle had begun, and the air was thick with tension. Ryan and his team stood in the heart of the battlefield, facing the alien force they had been preparing for. The Zephyrians, with their advanced weapons and technology, were unlike anything the humans had ever faced before. Yet, despite all odds, Ryan was determined to win. The fate of Earth rested on this battle, and he would not let humanity fall. Ryan looked at his team. Their faces were filled with determination and fear. They knew the risks. They knew that many of them wouldn't make it out alive. But they had come this far, and they weren't going to back down now. Each of them had lost something in this war. Some had lost family. Others had lost friends, and Ryan had lost Bonner, his closest ally. But now, it was time to fight. They had prepared for this moment for weeks, using every weapon and piece of technology they could find. The team had developed new cutting-edge technology, designed to give them an edge against the Zephyrians. Ryan had been the mastermind behind it all, using his genius-level intellect to create weapons that no alien technology could counter. But even his inventions couldn't guarantee victory. The Zephyrians were powerful, and their forces were nearly endless. The sound of explosions echoed across the battlefield as the two sides clashed. Ryan's team fought with everything they had, using cloaking devices to stay hidden, their robots to take on the alien soldiers, and advanced technology to counter the alien weapons. But the aliens were relentless. Their superior strength and speed were unmatched. Ryan dove behind a fallen pillar, narrowly avoiding an energy blast that would have obliterated him. He peeked around the corner, watching as one of his soldiers, Tom, took down a group of Zephyrians using a new weapon Ryan had designed. The weapon was small, compact, but deadly, a result of Ryan's unique ability to think outside the box. It worked because of humans' adaptability and creativity. No alien technology could predict how it worked, and that gave them an edge. But even with their new weapon, the battle was not going in their favor. The Zephyrians had been preparing for this fight for much longer. They had far more soldiers, and their technology was light years ahead of anything humanity could build. Ryan's mind raced as he tried to come up with a new plan. The Zephyrians were slowly pushing them back, cornering them with every step. Just as Ryan was about to give the order to retreat, he heard a scream. He turned around to see one of his soldiers, Eric, fall to the ground, hit by an energy blast. The alien forces were closing in, and his team was losing soldiers fast. Ryan's heart sank as he realized how much they had sacrificed already. He clenched his fists, fighting back the overwhelming sense of despair. They couldn't give up. Not now. "Keep fighting," Ryan shouted. "We are humanity. We fight until the end." He turned to his team. "We need to take out their command center. That's where they're coordinating their attacks. If we can destroy it, we can cripple their army." With renewed determination, they regrouped and made their way toward the center of the battlefield, using every trick they had learned to stay hidden and outmaneuver the alien soldiers. They fought through waves of Zephyrians, pushing forward despite the heavy losses. Each step was more difficult than the last, but they knew they couldn't stop. They couldn't let the sacrifices of those they had lost be in vain. As they neared the alien command center, Ryan spotted a massive alien warship hovering above them. The Zephyrians had brought their most powerful weapon to the battlefield. It was equipped with weapons powerful enough to level cities, and it seemed to be the final piece of their strategy to crush the humans once and for all. "We can't let them get that ship into the sky," Ryan said, his voice low. "If they do, we're finished." But the warship was heavily guarded. Ryan knew it would be nearly impossible to get close enough to destroy it. He glanced at his team. There was no time for hesitation. "Cover me," Ryan shouted, running towards the warship. His team followed him without question, firing at the alien soldiers who were attempting to stop them. The air crackled with energy as gunfire and explosions filled the battlefield. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest, but he pushed through the fear. He was the leader, and he had to be strong for his team. Ryan's hands trembled as he approached the base of the warship. It was heavily shielded, but he had one final trick up his sleeve. In the chaos of the battle, he had managed to get close enough to plant a small, powerful device on the ship, a device that would use the energy from the ship's own power source to destroy it from within. But before Ryan could activate the device, he saw something that made his blood run cold. His team was under attack. A group of Zephyrian soldiers had broken through their defenses and was heading straight for them. They were outnumbered, and it was only a matter of time before they would be overwhelmed. Ryan's mind raced. He had to make a choice: activate the device and risk losing his team, or stay and fight to protect them. His heart ached as he thought about the soldiers they had already lost. Bonner, Eric, and countless others had died for this cause. They couldn't die in vain. He made his decision. With a single press of a button, the device activated. A powerful explosion ripped through the warship, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The warship erupted in a ball of fire, its massive structure collapsing into the ground. The Zephyrians screamed in fury, but their battle was far from over. As the warship fell, Ryan and his team were still fighting, pushing through the remaining alien forces with everything they had. But the toll was heavy. One by one, his team members fell, their lives claimed by the chaos of the battle. Ryan's heart broke as he watched the people he had fought alongside, the people who had trusted him, fall. Finally, after what seemed like hours of intense fighting, the remaining Zephyrians retreated. The battlefield fell silent, save for the sounds of heavy breathing and the distant crackle of fires. Ryan stood, covered in blood and dust, his body aching from the brutal battle. He looked around at the bodies of his fallen comrades, each one a reminder of the cost of this war. They had won, but the price had been steep. "We did it," Ryan whispered, his voice heavy with grief. But at what cost? The war was over. Earth had been saved. But Ryan knew that the scars of this battle would last a lifetime. The emotional toll on him and his team was beyond measure. But in the end, they had stood their ground. They had fought against impossible odds and emerged victorious. And that victory, hard-earned and costly, would be remembered forever. The battlefield was silent, the echo of war fading as Ryan and his remaining team stood amidst the ruins. The alien forces were defeated, their machines of war lying shattered and burning on the ground. The air, once filled with the sound of explosions and gunfire, was now eerily calm. But for Ryan, the silence was deafening. The weight of the victory felt heavy, and as he looked around at the bodies of his fallen comrades, the true cost of this war settled in his chest. Humanity had won, but it had come at a terrible price. The sacrifices of his team, the countless lives lost, would never be forgotten. And as Ryan stood there, a thought began to creep into his mind. Was this victory worth it? Could they truly rebuild from the ashes of war? His mind was interrupted by a familiar voice. "Ryan," said Captain Jensen, one of the surviving members of his team. She approached cautiously, her face filled with exhaustion and sadness. "We did it, but at what cost?" Ryan didn't answer right away. He turned toward the horizon, where the sun was beginning to rise, casting a soft orange glow over the battlefield. The destruction was still visible, but there was a strange sense of hope in the air. They had won, but the journey ahead was just beginning. The Earth had survived, but what would the future hold? As they began to regroup, something unexpected happened. A small group of Zephyrians, those who had been left behind after the battle, approached. They were not soldiers, but the same alien species that had once disguised themselves as human-like hot girls in the earlier phases of the war. Their appearance was now far different. The elegant, seductive forms they once wore had been replaced by their true alien shapes, creatures with elongated limbs, smooth gray skin, and deep black eyes. But there was no sign of aggression in their posture. They were no longer the terrifying invaders that had tried to conquer Earth. The leader of the group stepped forward. We were wrong," it said, its voice filled with remorse. Your species showed us strength and bravery like we have never seen before. We underestimated humanity. We sought to take your world to fuel our own survival, but we now see that it is your resilience that is your true strength. We apologize." Ryan's eyes widened in disbelief. He had never imagined that the Zephyrians would admit their mistake, let alone offer an apology. This was the last thing he expected. For a moment, he was speechless. Captain Jensen looked at Ryan, then at the aliens. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. "After everything, can we trust them?" Ryan hesitated. His mind was still racing. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Humanity had been through so much, and there was still so much that needed to be rebuilt. But was forgiveness the answer? Could they truly give the Zephyrians a second chance? "We can't turn our backs on them," Ryan finally said, his voice firm. "They've seen what we're capable of. We've shown them the true strength of humanity, not just in battle, but in our ability to adapt, to survive, and to rebuild. If they are willing to change, we'll give them that chance. We won't make the same mistake they did." The Zephyrians nodded, their expressions unreadable but sincere. They spoke again, their tone now softer. "We ask for nothing more than the opportunity to coexist. We were blinded by our own desperation. We now see that Earth's resources, her spirit, are far greater than we ever understood. We seek redemption, not revenge." Ryan glanced at his team. Some of them looked uneasy, unsure if they could trust these alien creatures after everything they had done. Others were more hopeful, willing to give the Zephyrians a chance. But in the end, the decision was up to Ryan. He had led them through the war, and now he had to guide them into a new future. "We'll help you," Ryan said, his voice steady. "But know this, if you betray our trust, there will be no second chances. Humanity doesn't forget, and we don't forgive easily. If you want to live among us, you will need to earn that right. But if you are truly committed to change, we'll help you. We will rebuild this world together." The Zephyrians nodded again, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and gratitude. Ryan could see that they understood the gravity of the situation. This was a new beginning, not just for them, but for all of humanity. A chance to heal, to rebuild, and to move forward despite the scars of the past. As the Zephyrians left to join their own kind and begin the process of rebuilding their lives, Ryan and his team turned back to the battlefield. The sun was now fully risen, its light casting a warm glow on the destruction around them. It was a symbol of hope, of a new day. But the road ahead would not be easy. There was still much to do, much to rebuild, and many wounds to heal. The war had ended, but humanity's journey was far from over. There were still those who would question whether the Zephyrians could truly be trusted. There were still those who would never forgive them for the devastation they had caused. And there was still the uncertainty of the future, the looming question of whether the Zephyrians would honor their pledge or betray humanity once again. As Ryan and his team walked through the battlefield, the weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. But there was something different now. Despite the losses, despite the destruction, there was hope. Humanity had proven its strength, and it had won not just the war, but the respect of those who had once been enemies. The spirit of humanity had been unbreakable, and that would carry them into the future. But as they walked away from the battlefield, a chilling thought lingered in Ryan's mind. A thought that would stay with him for the rest of his life. The Zephyrians had promised to change. They had pledged to coexist with humanity. But could they be trusted? Ryan knew that the future was uncertain. The peace they had achieved might not last forever. The Zephyrians might have changed, or they might not. The question was, would humanity be ready if the aliens ever turned against them again? Would they be able to defend themselves? Would they be able to fight once more if the Zephyrians ever broke their promise? As Ryan looked up at the sky, he knew that this was only the beginning. The battle for Earth was over, but the real war, for humanity's future, was just beginning. And no one could predict where it would lead.